This is the Slots and Sockets podcast, episode number 25. I am one of your hosts, IRD Moose, and my partner in crime with tech,
Turbo Penguin.
Hey, happy pre-Friday to you, Turbo. And happy pre-Friday to all of our viewers who are joining in from the last video. Thank you all for the great comments and all the fun stuff down there. And in today's episode, we got some interesting things with AMD making moves to save gamers. A little bit of a juxtaposition from Monday's episode.
A little bit, more of a follow-up because, I think there's maybe some, there's maybe some feedback that people have had about, the pricing that we're seeing from NVIDIA, and, rightfully so. I mean, the thing is that if you go back to how much some of these cards have sold in the past, NVIDIA has absolutely been moving, not just the 90 series. Every series has shifted up a substantial, if not one whole segment, but maybe even more than a segment than it's had in the past. And and in some cases, if you look at what some of these cards are, some of them might even be close to double. But let's talk about some GPU news, and especially NVIDIA.
Yep.
Zotac is moving headquarters and manufacturing. And the word we have is that, there are NVIDIA people there, like, as a show of support, I guess. So I mean, I don't know if this is like a financial or a tax move or where this ends up being.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be somewhere as a tax move or a financial move or even a cost savings. Maybe it's it's cheaper to do it here, or I don't know. Maybe the dude who owns Zotac is like, I'm in Malaysia and Singapore more, and I like it here better than there.
Could be.
It's got to be something, but they did definitely move the headquarters, the manufacturing, and at least NVIDIA is giving the go-ahead on it.
Yep. And, there's some talk that this is to work around the tariffs because the parent company that owns Zotac, PC Partner, is part of the move there. And their headquarters apparently are going to Singapore, while the manufacturing is in Indonesia, where a lot of semiconductor manufacturers and board partners and the like already have existing manufacturing infrastructure. So it kind of makes sense. And, if it's a move kind of like some people are speculating to avoid the tariffs, then I think that will certainly help if you're in the market for a new GPU from Zotac, because they'll be able to either profit more or price their GPUs at something more reasonable if those tariffs do come into play. Now, that said, politics is one of those things that we do try to avoid on this podcast. So beyond just talking about the tariffs, we won't delve into the other craziness around that, but it is a factor to consider. And there's a lot of other factors that, of course, we wouldn't discuss here that could have led to that decision as well. But, I would certainly hope that this move for Zotac and Inno3D and Manly, that's a very strong name, Manly, that it's a positive move for them. And it's something that they can capitalize on and keep moving their product stack forward. Because I've seen some issues with Zotac parts. I don't generally recommend them myself, but if it turns into something positive, then the people I recommend hardware to might see Zotac in my lists in the future.
I don't know. It's it's a pretty big change if you're going to move not only where your headquarters are, but where your
Mhm.
manufacturing is. Because I think people think, oh, you're just going to move it. You move a warehouse and it's just a place to store things.
Yep.
And that makes sense. Um, when you move manufacturing and all of that, um, you have to plan that. Now, typically speaking, though, in something like this might be a way for them to say, and we're also doing upgrades. So there could be some other things that kind of go along with this move.
Yeah.
Typically speaking, when you go from one facility to another, you're hopefully doing some upgrades,
Yep.
both in like office facilities and warehouse
Manufacturing machines,
space,
things like that. Yeah.
manufacturing machines, that type of stuff. So it very well could be. And the other half of this, it might be that they're looking to tap into talent that are in both of these locations, both in Taiwan and Malaysia, um, to give them a strategic move against others. And if this is a tariff thing where they're trying to sidestep tariffs, this could also protect them in a price valuation, because Zotac
Hmm.
typically is more of the value um, budget gamer
Yep.
pieces. Um, and if this is a way to bypass a future um, tariff, then this would help protect them in that. And the other half, it makes them more profitable, because if they could, I don't know, sell, for 10% more, but not have to pay tariffs, that means that they're making 10% more profit or something along those lines. I don't
Yeah.
know. Um, it is an interesting thought. Um, Obviously, you don't just willy nilly do this. This is probably something that's been in the books um, without any issues.
I
This is
mean,
not something you
yeah,
just kind of, yeah. It's
it's
not something you
something
just
that
pick
would
up and
take
like,
years.
we're moving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
It's something that takes years of coordination and lots of capital investment to make happen. So, the tariffs may actually just end up being a side benefit thing. And there's likely other reasons involved, because we have seen other manufacturers moving facilities to different locations. There's a few in technology that have moved to India. Apple is a great example of that, and they're doing a lot of their manufacturing for their iPhones in India now. And so, it's just moving forward. It's the progress of the industry, and I wish Zotac all the luck in the world. And me being the eternal optimist and hoping for the best, but preparing or at least expecting the worst. Um, I hope it winds up as a positive move for them and for their employees as well. So, on that note, moving over to positive moves, or moving on with positive moves. Words are
hmm,
kind of hard today. We've got some leaks about UDNA coming along the lines that while we're supposed to be seeing the 8800 XT, so the last RDNA 4 card coming out in just a couple months, we might see the 9900 series coming out in just a bit over a year. Things are looking like Q2 26 right now, at least according to
yeah.
the rumors.
I first and foremost, I would tell everyone to take everything that we're hearing, this far out with a grain of salt.
Yep.
Nothing is finished. I would make an argument that they haven't taped out. Um, Taping out means that they've actually laid down silicon. My guess is that they've got a really good idea what they're trying to do, but they still got to put it all together and make it all happy. Um, the honest truth is that this is their internal game plan for this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I really first, my initial thought actually is that you know I just it seems Q2 of 26, and it seems like it's really far away, and it
Mm,
and it's, you know, in a lot of respects, it kind of is.
yeah.
Um, so I think that, you know, this is a good thing. They're talking about combining the the compute side with the gaming side, and even so much as also pushing this also over to um, the uh, the PlayStation and the console side. I
Yep.
think those are all smart things. You know, one of the things that I think that, you know, at least from my perspective, always was, at least from AMD, and where I thought maybe we had a better opportunity to maybe succeed here, is I sort of thought that because all of these games were on PlayStation and on Xbox, that you would have so much movement, like an experience with this being in the console side, that you would really see a lot of um, features and like optimization come across. And while I don't think it's necessarily like incorrect, I don't think that the optimizations, or at least that portion of the hope for some of these cards, has been as fruitful as maybe the early adopters may have thought. And I hope that something like UDNA is a step in the right direction to unifying and kind of bringing both of those, the commercial pieces, the gaming pieces, because, you know, when they talk about the 8800 XT or the next generation RDNA 4, right? You know, the big thing is they're trying to say we want to get market share, we want to get more users, we want more user base.
Yep.
The reason they want more users is because with more users comes the ability to push some of these software pieces that they haven't been able to do very well.
Yeah.
And I really think that that's important. You know, right now they do not have a very good market share, and it also doesn't help that, you know, if we look at it, you know, they did kind of shrink the Radeon graphics team from a jobs perspective.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I really hope it kind of is, um, you know, it's a positive thing. I do think that it should be positive. I think the real question, and I think where a lot of gamers are going to be coming from, is going to be how well is it executed, and then two, how well is the support from the developers on both sides.
Yeah. Well,
And
and I
yeah,
think one of the issues AMD's kind of had with the developer side is they 86 the guy who was developing Zluda. They had brought him on board to from an open source project to being an internal hire to work for AMD to develop that, and then they canned him, and Intel picked him up. And so they lost that project, and it was showing a lot of promise of getting CUDA workloads to work on both RDNA and CDNA GPUs, which is very interesting because that would have helped bridge the gap between RDNA and UDNA, at least on the AI performance side, because it would allow you to take better advantage of the GPU horsepower that you have. That, you know, AMD's rasterization performance on the 6000 and 7000 series is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, it's good compared to its gen for gen competitors in, you know, the 6900 XT compared to the 3080, and, you know, in some point places it trades blows with the 3090, and the same thing with the 78 or 7900 XT and the 7900 XTX. They compete in some things with the 48 or 4080, and trade blows at times with the 4090 on rasterization. But as soon as you throw ray tracing in, which is what everybody actually wants to go to eventually, um, it falls flat. And so, it's possible that they just decided, okay, we're going to cut bait on all this RDNA stuff. We're going to combine the two architectures, take the strengths from both, and that's going to be our new generation going forward. Basically, doing what NVIDIA has been doing from the get go of building in all the cool stuff into their entire product stack.
Yeah, I really think that the big deal on um from AMD's side is you're gonna have to, at least for this generation, which I think is what we've been hearing,
Yeah.
is it's gonna need to be value oriented, which I think that's the plan. Everything we've heard of, that's what is the other loaded question: be where is that price point gonna fall for that RDNA 4? It's not finalized yet. So I think that's going to be hugely important. I think the other half of this is going to be for the next gen UDNA, or if there's a half gen, like an 8850 XT or something along those lines, or something to kind of bridge the gap between those two. Maybe that's something kind of in the middle, but I really think that is going to be a really interesting point of where it falls in from a value perspective. I think right now, at least on the Radeon side, AMD has to realize that they have to be focused on the value segment more than anything else. You've got to be happy and sitting where that value is. Yep. If you're in that value segment, you're in really good shape. That's where they're going to play well there. On the CPU side, you've got to be playing against, they've got that locked down. I mean, they're the king. And I think 9950X X3D is going to be a really, really good part, just in general. But they've got to play their strengths. And if AMD is smart, they'll look at this and say, okay, how do we market this and learn what we need to learn while getting the market share we need to be competitive? I really think RDNA 4 is a stepping stone for them to be ready to succeed when UDNA 5 comes out.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree.
And I believe that that's market share. I believe it's marketing. I believe it's value. I think it's RT performance. And I also think that some of this needs to also be drivers, because I think that there's part of this that as you're pushing that RT performance up, there's going to be a section that you really haven't done a ton with ray tracing, that you're going to have to kind of massage into happiness with drivers. And so I really think that it's going to be a mixture of all of these. And if they can do this, then I think they're going to set themselves up really well to be competitive.
Yep.
But I believe it has to be all of it. I don't think you can sit there and say, well, I can do all of this, but without a fan base or without a large install base. Right. No, I really think you have to have all of it.
Yeah, and I kind of have the feeling that RDNA 4 is one of those generations where they're like, okay, we need a new product, we need to fix some of these things, and we need something that's leading into this next gen part that, we're not going to actually be spending mass quantities of silicon for until 2026. So let's see if we can fix RT on RDNA 4. And, if it turns out to be what the rumors are saying with the 8800, that might actually be a reasonable upgrade for me. Because that's the only thing I really feel like I'm missing out on at this point, aside from, the ability to maybe play with some AI stuff every once in a while. But, I think one of those things where, like you were saying, AMD, I think, needs to learn how to lead, because they've been in second place on CPUs and GPUs for so long that, if Nvidia sticks to their guns and just goes crazy on the pricing, like we talked about last episode, AMD has an opportunity to win big, like they have with the 9800 X3D. And, like I think they probably will win with the 9900 and 9950 X3Ds that are coming soon. And so with AMD kind of taking that leadership position because Intel bungled it, I really hope that they take the knowledge they gain from learning how to lead there and turn that into a potential lead on the GPU side, at the
I
very
really,
least in the mid market.
I think the big thing that AMD has to deliver on, and I think UDNA goes into this. I think this goes into PlayStation 6.
Yep.
I believe that this goes into Halo Strix and Hawkpoint. I really think something that's super duper important. I mean, really important for AMD, and I believe that this is really important right now.
Mm.
Is I believe that they have to be in a place where they can own the APU side of things.
Yeah.
We know Nvidia has been playing around with ARM. They almost bought ARM. They've been playing around with ARM. We know that they continue to play with ARM. Nothing is ready to be released, but you know that they've been doing ARM-based stuff. And you know that they're not sitting back. Like, I don't think that they're like, yeah, maybe we'll do that. No, they've got stuff. They've got engineers and teams dedicated to the ARM and an APU style thing. I think NVIDIA knows this. I also think that NVIDIA very well could be a very, very good purchase of Intel when we have all of these Intel buying rumors. It is a US based company based in the US, housed in the US. They could buy them with pennies that they have sitting around from their their fruit baskets.
Pennies gathering dust in Jensen's leather jacket.
And this is a buy that nobody would have ever done. But if the federal government was to sanction something like this to keep chip manufacturing here in the United States, that could be a very, very interesting, pair. I think the reason, we looked at this and said, the US government was like, no, you can't have ARM and NVIDIA. That's a monopoly. But think about this. They tried to do that. Now you're going to give them, if they have the ability to buy Intel, it's like here, have x86 and all of Intel and all of Intel's engineers and all of Intel's, IP and the ability to really optimize that relationship. And I think that would make tons of sense. And I think when we hear some of these rumors of Intel being bought, I don't take them lightly. From a financial perspective, they really are in a really rough spot. And next year is going to be worse because eventually all of the bad things that we've talked about, is going to come to a head in the first quarter when they start doing, because let's be honest, guys, they've got the 285K, the 200 series. It is selling horribly.
Yep.
Absolutely horribly.
The 14 series is selling better, and that's a known broken chip. It was. No. They supposedly fixed it.
But the problem is that from a company perspective, financials, Wall Street is looking at how are you doing selling, and right now they're losing in data center, they're losing in graphics, they're losing in servers, they're losing in desktop. They're set to lose pretty handily. And they're giving over market share left and right. And the longer this goes, the worse this is going to be. And I think investors realize that, hey, as a buyout's in the best interest for my own self-interest.
Yep.
And to be honest, it's probably in the best interest for for Intel, because eventually there comes a point when you need to have money. You have to be able to pay for things. And that means you have to sell stuff.
Yep.
And unfortunately for right now, I think that for them, if someone like NVIDIA gets the green light from the Department of Justice to move forward with a acquisition to keep stuff, here in the United States, that's a huge thing. Now, I do not expect NVIDIA to use Intel fabs to make anything.
No.
Um,
They might
but
upgrade the fabs
well,
or
that's what
upgrade
they
one
would
of
do.
them. Yeah.
That's
But
what they would do.
because they
They would
already
put a
have the
ton
design
of money
knowledge.
into it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, if we were having this discussion about 6 months ago, and actually we kind of were, I think the thought of NVIDIA potentially buying Intel would have been looked at as ridiculous because you've got the world's number one GPU manufacturer looking at buying the world's number one CPU manufacturer, and they both individually effectively have a stranglehold on a large share of the market. Now the market has dropped out of the bottom for Intel, and I think that's where the concern with the Nvidia ARM acquisition was, because every mobile device, everything from your Raspberry Pi to your iPhone to your MacBook to every single cell phone on the market uses ARM IP, and to give NVIDIA, who has that GPU I don't want to say monopoly because it's not, though they have had issues with the DOJ on monopolistic practices. They've shown that they will use that market position and potentially abuse it, kind of like they're doing to gamers. And, since Intel is basically becoming the also ran now after the last year and a half, 2 years of colossal mismanagement, including mismanagement to the point where they lost their sweetheart deal with TSMC because the CEO wouldn't shut his stupid trap. You know, it does make it a reasonable possibility that NVIDIA might end up buying them, at the very least, for some of their CPU IP and maybe for the fabs. But NVIDIA's been working fabless for such a long time. I think they'd probably just sell the fabs off to somebody who does fab stuff. Because NVIDIA doesn't
Yeah,
do fab stuff. They might keep one
no,
on for
it's
an R&D fab, but beyond that, I can't see
no.
NVIDIA keeping fabs.
I don't know. I mean, look. I mean, if the federal government, the United States government, is going to give out $30 billion, you might be like, free money to upgrade.
Yeah.
That might be, that's a drop in the bucket of what we think it would cost to really kind of bring some of these fabs up to speed.
Yep.
And maybe the other half of this is that, do you really have the expertise to really transform and fix those Intel fabs? Now, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure that that's correct.
Yeah.
I think TSMC really does have a leg up from everybody else, but TSMC is not going to be in the run to buy Intel. There are other people, but it will be interesting to see. But I really think that that's going to be a talking point in next year.
Yeah.
That's going to come full circle. And I would say that we're probably going to hear more and more rumors, and I don't think they're going to get quieter. And I think part of this is because you've got, I mean, in all honesty, from a financial perspective, I really think that people will look at Pat Gelsinger and be like, dude, you're an idiot. I mean,
Right?
he completely missed AI. He put all the money in graphics, but kept on under delivering and being late. You've got, the lack of inspiration to actually come out with something. You just kept on pushing 13th and 14th gen to a point where it's a liability now. And it is a liability. You're being sued for it. You're going to lose.
Yep.
You're going to lose. It's just not good news, and there's not any happy music to kind of go in the background. And I think that there are sharks circling, and I think someone is going to smell blood. And when that happens, I think the loaded question will be if you can get, United States approval, then I think it's going to go really quick. Yeah. I really think, from a financial perspective, I know gamers, it's different because we all think it's, but when this goes down, it is going to be done by the time we really are like such and such is talking. It's done. Like when we start seeing rumors of like, hey, AMD and NVIDIA, and heck, there's even talk that AMD might be interested in buying Intel.
Yeah, I don't think
I don't see that,
but
but there have been some financial people that say that's an option. Now, that really isn't, I don't think, because there's no value added for AMD. But just keep it in the back of your mind, guys. I'm not saying that right now it has any negative impact on products or anything else, but as time goes, these lawsuits and liabilities and unprofitableness are going to continue, and the financial market has responded and will continue to respond.
Yep.
So
yeah, exactly. Well, and if Team Green with NVIDIA buys out Team Blue, and you mix those two colors, do they become Team Yellow?
That's a good question. That is a very good question.
Yep, exactly. So on that bombshell, unless we have another record scratch moment, I think I'm going to say thank you all for watching. It's been a good show today. And while you're at it, feel free to give us a like and subscribe, or a dislike if you prefer. If you think we're both a bunch of idiots, and I will cop to being an idiot. Please feel free to leave a comment down the doobly-doo. Give us some more feedback on our episodes. If there's a topic you want to see covered in a future episode, something that might be a blind spot for us, let us know. We're glad to hear from you, and we'll always jump into the comments and chat every once in a while. So thank you again all for watching, and until next time, have fun storming the castle.
Take care, guys.
Good night, everybody.